A young woman represented herself in court against a feared mafia boss. When she opened a mysterious envelope, his entire family froze in terror, knowing the secret inside could destroy generations of their empire and everything they built. Subscribe and like if you're ready for a tale where hearts collide, danger dances, and love rebels. The courtroom fell into an unnatural silence the moment he entered. Dominic Russo didn't walk. He commanded space, his presence alone enough to make seasoned attorneys grip their briefcases tighter. The tailored black suit he wore cost more than most people's monthly salary, and the way he carried himself suggested he knew it. At 33, he'd built an empire that existed in the shadows of legitimate business. A kingdom where whispers replaced contracts and loyalty was purchased with fear. His reputation preceded him like a dark storm. The Russo family controlled the eastern seaboard's underground with surgical precision. Warehouses that burned down conveniently when insurance was needed. Rival families that simply disappeared after challenging his territory. Politicians who suddenly changed their votes after private meetings. Yet nothing ever stuck. Evidence vanished. Witnesses recanted. Prosecutors found themselves reassigned to traffic violations. Until her. Sophia Bennett stood at the plaintiff's table, 27 years old, with fire in her eyes that hadn't been extinguished by 3 years of corporate law. She'd left the safety of her prestigious firm for this, representing herself and a coalition of small business owners who claimed Russo's protection services were nothing more than extortion dressed in expensive cologne. She felt his gaze before she saw him. When she finally looked up from her notes, their eyes locked across the courtroom. His were dark, almost black, assessing her with the cold calculation of a predator evaluating prey. Most people looked away when Dominic Russo stared at them. She held his gaze, lifted her chin slightly, and returned to her paperwork. Something flickered across his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or interest. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Morrison," the bailiff announced. The preliminary hearing began with standard procedures, but Sophia felt the weight of every eye in the room. The gallery was packed, half with Russo's people, men in dark suits with hands perpetually near their jacket pockets, and half with journalists who smelled blood in the water. A civilian attorney taking on the Russo family? It was either incredibly brave or monumentally stupid. "Ms. Bennett," Judge Morrison's voice cut through her thoughts. "You're representing yourself in this matter?" "Yes, Your Honor. I'm fully aware of the saying about lawyers who represent themselves, but I assure you, I'm quite capable." A low chuckle rippled from Russo's side of the room. She ignored it. "Very well. Please present your opening statement." Sophia stood, smoothing her white blouse, a deliberate choice, symbolizing the transparency she intended to bring to this case. "Your Honor, this case is about power and its abuse. The Russo organization has systematically intimidated, coerced, and extracted money from legitimate businesses under the guise of security services. We have documentation, witness statements, and financial records that prove a pattern of criminal behavior masked as legitimate enterprise." Objection. Russo's attorney, a silver-haired man named Gerald Blackwood, who charged $1,000 an hour, rose smoothly. "Counsel is making allegations without foundation. My client runs several legitimate security firms." "I'll allow it for now," Judge Morrison said. "Continue, Ms. Bennett." For the next hour, Sophia laid out her case with surgical precision. She presented contracts with suspicious clauses, showed photographs of accidents that befell businesses who refused services, introduced bank records showing payments that coincided with mysterious improvements in business circumstances. She was good, better than good. She was relentless. And through it all, Dominic Russo watched her with an expression that never changed. No anger, no concern. Just that steady, unreadable gaze that made her skin prickle with awareness she absolutely did not want to feel. When the judge called for recess, Sophia gathered her materials quickly. She needed air, needed to escape the suffocating weight of his attention. "Ms. Bennett." His voice stopped her halfway to the door. Deep, controlled, with an accent that spoke of private schools and old money, despite the violence in his blood. She turned slowly. He stood 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His bodyguards flanked him at a respectful distance, but their presence was unmistakable. "That was quite a performance," he said, and she couldn't tell if he was impressed or amused. "It wasn't a performance. It was the truth. Truth is subjective, Ms. Bennett. Surely 3 years of law taught you that." "Justice isn't." A smile played at the corner of his mouth. "You're either very brave or very naive. I prefer principled. Principles are expensive in this city, dangerously expensive." Was that a threat? His tone remained conversational, almost friendly, but there was steel underneath. She stepped closer, refusing to be intimidated. "Is that your way of warning me off this case?" "Warning?" He seemed genuinely surprised. "No, I'm simply observing that you've made quite an entrance. People will remember your name now." "Good. Then they'll remember who finally held you accountable." For a moment, something flickered in those dark eyes. Not anger, but something more complex. Respect, maybe. Or the kind of curiosity a cat feels before pouncing on something that dares to move. "You don't know anything about me, Ms. Bennett." "I know enough. I know what you've built. What you've destroyed." "Do you?" He leaned in slightly, and her breath caught despite herself. "Then you should know that people who come after me rarely finish what they started. Not because I stop them, but because they realize the cost is too high." "The only thing I realize," she said, her voice steady even as her heart raced, "is that you've gotten away with it for too long. That ends now." His smile widened, genuine this time. "I look forward to seeing you try, counselor." He turned and walked away, his entourage falling into formation around him like a well-trained machine. Sophia watched him go, her hands trembling slightly as adrenaline flooded her system. She'd just declared war on the most dangerous man in the city. What terrified her most wasn't the threat he represented. It was the fact that for just a moment, when he'd leaned close, she'd felt her pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Outside the courthouse, the spring air did little to cool her heated skin. Sophia leaned against the building's stone facade, trying to steady her breathing. She'd prepared for this moment for months, the confrontation, the legal battle, the media attention. What she hadn't prepared for was him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maria Rodriguez, one of her key witnesses, a restaurant owner who'd finally agreed to testify about the insurance payments she'd been making to Russo's organization for 5 years. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. My family comes first." Sophia's stomach dropped. That made 3 witnesses in 2 days. She dialed Maria's number immediately. "Please don't call again," Maria answered, her voice tight with fear. "I have children, Ms. Bennett. I can't. I won't risk them." "Maria, I can get you protection. We can—" "From him? You don't understand what you're dealing with. Just please, leave it alone." The line went dead. Sophia stood there, phone pressed to her ear, understanding with crystal clarity what Dominic Russo had meant. The cost is too high. His reputation did the work for him. Bad news. She spun around to find a man in his 50s, graying at the temples, wearing a rumpled brown jacket. His face was familiar, though she couldn't place it immediately. "Detective Frank Chen," he introduced himself, showing his badge. "Retired, but I've been following your case with interest." "Why?" "Because 20 years ago, I tried to do what you're doing, tried to build a case against the Russo organization." His expression was rueful. "Got nowhere. Witnesses disappeared, evidence got lost, and eventually, I learned to look the other way like everyone else." "That's a depressing pep talk, detective." "Not a pep talk, a warning. But maybe you should know that the game is more complicated than it appears." He handed her a business card. "My number. If you want to know the whole story, call me. But Ms. Bennett, be prepared for your entire understanding of this situation to change." He walked away before she could ask more questions, leaving her with a business card and a growing sense that she'd stumbled into something far more complex than a simple extortion case. That night, alone in her apartment, Sophia spread her case files across the dining table. She'd built what she thought was an airtight argument, but with 3 witnesses recanting, cracks were forming in her certainty. Her laptop pinged with an email. Unknown sender. Ms. Bennett, courage without context is just recklessness. Before you proceed, ask yourself, who benefits from Dominic Russo's fall? The answer might surprise you. She was about to close the laptop when another email arrived, this time with an attachment. Her hand hovered over the mouse, every instinct screaming that opening it was a mistake. She opened it anyway. The file contained a police report from 12 years ago, her father's accident report. Except this version had pages she'd never seen. Witness statements about a black sedan following Marcus Bennett's car. Notes about brake line damage inconsistent with normal wear. A detective's recommendation for further investigation stamped case closed with no explanation. Sophia's vision blurred as tears welled. Her father hadn't died in a simple accident. Someone had killed him, and someone had covered it up. Her phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. Did you read it? Dominic Russo's voice was quiet, lacking the performative confidence from court. You sent this? Her voice cracked. You sent me evidence that my father was murdered? I sent you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. Why? Because you deserve to know, and because the people responsible aren't who you think they are. He paused. Meet me tomorrow, not in court. Somewhere we can talk. I'll explain everything. I can't just meet with you. Then continue your case and never know the truth about your father, or take a risk and discover that everything you believe might be wrong. His voice dropped. The choice is yours, counselor. But decide quickly, because the people who killed Marcus Bennett know you're asking questions. The line went dead, leaving Sophia alone with a police report that rewrote her entire childhood and a choice that could destroy everything she thought she knew. Already hit subscribe and liked? Be ready. What happens next will make you cry. Sleep didn't come that night. Sophia read and reread the police report until her eyes burned, cross-referencing dates with her father's work calendar, which she'd kept in a box under her bed for 12 years. Marcus Bennett had been an investigative journalist, specializing in municipal corruption. In the weeks before his death, he'd been working on something big. She remembered him being preoccupied, taking phone calls at odd hours, looking worried in ways that frightened her 15-year-old self. At 7 in the morning, she called Detective Chen. He answered on the first ring as if he'd been expecting her call. You got something interesting, didn't you? He said without preamble. A police report about my father's death. Pages that were never in the official file. Pages that suggest murder, not accident. A heavy sigh. I wondered when those would surface. Meet me at Riverside Diner in an hour. This conversation needs to happen face-to-face. The diner was nearly empty when she arrived. Chen sat in a corner booth with a box of files that looked like they'd been hidden for years. Marcus was investigating the Castellano family, Chen said without preamble, spreading documents across the table. Ever heard of them? No. Most people haven't. That's by design. 20 years ago, they controlled this city's underground. Salvatore Castellano ran everything. Protection, construction contracts, unions. He was brutal, old school. What happened to him? Dominic Russo's father happened. Antonio Russo went to war with the Castellanos over territory. When the dust settled, Salvatore's organization was destroyed. He went into hiding, died a few years later. Everyone assumed the Castellano era was over. Sophia's mind was racing. But Salvatore had 2 sons, Marco and Vincent. They were in their early 20s when their father fell. Smart enough to disappear, patient enough to rebuild slowly. They've been operating in the shadows for 2 decades, running rackets that everyone assumes are Russo operations. Why would people assume that? Chen's smile was grim. Because the Russo name carries enough there that witnesses don't differ. Someone demands protection money? Must be the Russos. The Castellano brothers have been hiding behind Dominic's reputation while they rebuild their father's empire. Sophia felt sick. The business owners I interviewed, they all said Russo's people, but they never met Dominic himself. Exactly. Your father discovered the Castellanos were still active. He had proof they were behind construction contract fraud, and they killed him for it. Why didn't you come forward with this before? With what? The police report you received, I kept copies, but the originals were destroyed. Witnesses recanted or disappeared. The detective who initially investigated died of a heart attack 6 months after closing the case. Sophia's hands trembled. Everything she'd built was based on a lie. Dominic Russo sent me that police report. Why would he do that? Because he's been waiting for someone to finally see the truth. Someone who could expose the Castellanos without being bought off or scared away. Chen studied her carefully. He's been collecting evidence on them for years. And then you walked into that courtroom, fearless and furious. You were exactly what he needed. Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Lucia's Restaurant, 5th and Madison, 1 hour. Come alone or spend the rest of your life wondering what really happened to your father. Doctor. Chen saw her expression change. Russo wants to meet? Yes, today, alone. Are you going? Sophia looked at the files spread across the table, at the evidence of her father's murder. Yes, because I need to hear this from him. I need to know the whole truth. Lucia's was a small Italian restaurant where families celebrated anniversaries, blissfully unaware that one of the most dangerous men in the city was sitting in a corner booth. Dominic had ditched the bodyguards and the expensive suit, wearing dark jeans and a simple black shirt that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. When he saw her enter, something in his expression softened. You came, he said as she slid into the booth. I wasn't sure you would. I need answers. Then I'll give them to you. He slid a thick envelope across the table. Everything I have on the Castellano organization, financial records, surveillance photos, witness testimonies, it's all verified, all admissible in court if you know how to present it. Sophia didn't touch the envelope. Why are you doing this? Because 12 years ago, Marco Castellano ordered your father's murder. Because they've been operating behind my family's reputation, committing crimes and letting me take the blame. Because I'm tired of being the monster everyone assumes I am when there are real monsters walking free. You are a monster, though? Yes. He didn't flinch. I've done terrible things. Things I can't undo or atone for. But I've never killed someone for asking questions or pursuing truth. That's the line I don't cross. That's a very fine line. It's the only one I have left. He met her eyes directly. When I was 13, I watched Salvatore Castellano's lieutenant shoot my father in the head. I learned that day that in my world, mercy gets you killed. So yes, I destroyed the Castellano organization. But murder of journalists, targeting families, that's not business. That's terrorism. Sophia felt her worldview cracking. You're still trying to justify what you do. No, I'm trying to help you understand the difference. Your father was investigating the Castellanos' construction fraud. They had city officials on payroll, contracts going to shell companies. He was about to expose decades of corruption. He pulled out his phone, showing her surveillance photos. 2 men in their 40s, well-dressed but with an edge of violence. Marco Castellano, Dominic said, pointing to the first. MBA from Columbia, legitimately intelligent. He rebuilt his father's network using modern corporate structures. And Vincent Castellano, the enforcement. Less refined but more dangerous. He's the one who would have personally handled your father. Sophia stared at the photos, memorizing the faces of the men who'd destroyed her family. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. That's why I'm giving you everything with no strings attached. Take it to the FBI, cross-reference it with your father's work. Talk to Detective Chen and verify every claim I've made. Do your investigation, counselor, and follow the evidence wherever it leads. And if I find out you're lying, then you come after me with everything you have. His slight smile was self-deprecating. I'm many things, Sophia. But I'm not a liar. Ask me anything about my organization, my activities, my crimes, and I'll tell you the truth. I might not be proud of it, but I won't lie to you. She tested him. Have you killed people? Yes, 17. All of them people who threatened my family or my organization directly. That doesn't make it right. No, it makes it survival. Sophia's head was spinning. She should walk away. But as she looked at him, she saw something she hadn't expected. Exhaustion. Loneliness. A man who'd spent so long being the monster that he'd almost forgotten how to be human. Tell me about your father, she said suddenly. Not the business. Him. As a person. Dominic's expression shuddered briefly. He was complicated. Violent when necessary, but he had rules. He protected the neighborhood, kept harder substances out, made sure families were safe. And when he died, I learned that being the scariest thing in the room is the only way to survive. You don't have to be that person anymore. Don't I? This is the only world I know, Sophia. What if someone saw you differently? Saw past the reputation to who you actually are? His dark eyes searched her face. Are you saying you see something worth knowing? I'm saying I'm starting to question everything I thought I knew. About you. About justice. That's a dangerous road. Then walk it with me. Help me understand. Dominic reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of touching hers. If we do this, there's no going back. You'll see things that can't be unseen, and the Castellanos will realize you're a threat. They won't hesitate to finish what they started with your father. Then we move fast. We hit them before they can react. A slow smile spread across his face. You really are remarkable. Stop calling me that. What should I call you? Sophia. Just Sophia. Sophia. The way he said her name sent warmth through her entire body. We'll need resources. Protection. The Castellanos have informants throughout the city. You have somewhere safe? I own a building downtown. Top floor is secure. We can set up there. Sophia took a deep breath. Then I guess we're doing this. Temporary alliance against a common enemy. Alliance. He seemed to test the word. Is that all this is? She met his eyes, seeing the question beneath the question. The attraction that had been building since that first moment in the courtroom. I don't know yet, she admitted. But I know I can't walk away. Dominic's hand finally closed the distance, covering hers. The touch was electric, dangerous, exactly what she should avoid. Then we figure it out together, he said quietly. As they left the restaurant, Sophia felt the weight of her decision. She'd just aligned herself with a criminal to pursue justice. She'd crossed every ethical line. And yet, she felt more certain of her purpose than she had in years. Her father had died seeking truth. Now she would finish his work, even if it meant losing herself in the process. The building Dominic owned was a sleek downtown high-rise called the Morrison. The elevator required a key card to access the top floor, which opened directly into a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Someone had already transformed it into a functional office, desks, filing cabinets, a computer system that looked military-grade, and a conference table. You've been planning this, Sophia said, since the day you filed your complaint. Dominic emerged from a side room in more professional attire. I had a feeling you'd see through to the truth eventually. I wanted to be prepared. A tall woman in tactical gear entered. Ms. Bennett, this is Sarah Mitchell, former Secret Service, now head of my personal security. She'll be coordinating your protection. For the next hour, Sarah outlined security measures that would govern Sophia's life. No more spontaneous trips. Everywhere she went, Sarah or her team would be shadows. The apartment through that door is yours, Sarah concluded, gesturing to a living space visible through glass walls. We've already retrieved essentials from your apartment. You went to my apartment? With your landlord's permission and police escort, Dominic said quickly. Everything was documented. Sophia felt violated despite the legality, but as she looked around, she understood the necessity. When do we start? Now. Dominic pulled out files. These are the Castellano business holdings. We need to trace the money flow, connect it to specific crimes. They worked through the afternoon, Dominic explaining his world while Sophia applied her legal expertise. It was strange, this partnership, the criminal and the attorney, working toward justice outside official channels. Detective Chen arrived around 7, carrying Chinese takeout and more files. Couldn't let you kids have all the fun. I've been working my old contacts. Got confirmation that Marco Castellano met with 3 of your original witnesses the week before they recanted. Can we prove it? Sophia asked. Not in court. But we can use it to understand their pattern. Her phone buzzed. A photo of her entering this building 2 hours ago, and beneath it, interesting new address, Ms. Bennett. Your father chose poorly too. Some lessons require teaching twice. Dominic saw her expression and took the phone, his jaw tightening. They're watching. They know you're here. Is she safe? Chen asked. This building is secure. They'd need an army to breach it. But Dominic's voice was grim. The threat isn't getting in. It's what happens when she eventually has to leave. Then we accelerate the timeline, Sophia said, forcing her voice steady. We have evidence. Let's use it. It's not enough yet. We need testimony, a witness willing to go on record. Who would be crazy enough to testify against the Castellanos? Someone who has nothing left to lose. Dominic pulled out a file about a man named Thomas Ricci. He was Vincent Castellano's lieutenant for 15 years. 3 months ago, Vincent had his son beaten as a warning. The kid's in a wheelchair now. Thomas went underground, terrified for his family. You know where he is? I've been waiting for the right moment to approach him. His testimony could bring down the entire Castellano organization. It's dangerous, Sophia said. If we approach him and he refuses, or tells the Castellanos we tried, then we're no worse off than we are now, Dominic finished. They already know you're a threat. The question is whether we move first. We move first. Sophia made the decision with confidence. Contact Ricci. Set up a meeting. Chen left to make arrangements, leaving Sophia and Dominic alone as night settled. The windows had automatically tinted for privacy, and the enclosed space felt intimate. You're taking this remarkably well, Dominic observed, pouring them both whiskey. Most people would be terrified. Who says I'm not terrified? Your hands are steady. Your voice is calm. My father taught me that fear is just information. It tells you what matters. Being paralyzed by it is a choice. She accepted the glass. He faced down corrupt politicians with just his notebook and his principles. The least I can do is finish what he started. He'd be proud of you. Would he? I'm working with a criminal. I've abandoned every ethical guideline. I'm not sure that's something to be proud of. Dominic moved closer. You're pursuing truth at significant personal cost. You're refusing to accept convenient justice in favor of real justice. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Maybe both. His slight smile was self-deprecating. Seems to be a theme with us. The us hung in the air, acknowledging what they'd both been dancing around. This wasn't just professional anymore. This is a bad idea, Sophia whispered, though she didn't step back. Terrible idea, Dominic agreed, also not moving. You're everything I should avoid, and you're everything I have no right to want. Neither moved away. Instead, Dominic raised his hand slowly, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so tender that Sophia's breath caught. I don't do this, he said quietly. I don't let people in. But you. He shook his head, bewildered. From the moment you stood up in that courtroom and refused to be intimidated, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Dominic, tell me to stop. Tell me you don't feel this too, and I'll step back. She should tell him exactly that. Should maintain the boundaries. Instead, she kissed him. It started tentative, a question more than a statement. But the moment their lips met, something ignited. His hand cupped her face with devastating gentleness, while his other arm wrapped around her waist. She gripped his shirt, steadying herself as the world tilted. The kiss deepened, became consuming. He tasted like whiskey and danger. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. "We can't take this back," he whispered. "I know. The Castellanos will use you against me. You're my weakness now. Then we make sure they never get the chance." He pulled back slightly, studying her face. "I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. All I can promise is that as long as I'm breathing, nothing will touch you." That's enough. They stood there in the dim office, two people who should have been enemies discovering they were something far more complicated. Something that might save them both or destroy them completely. Sophia's phone buzzed. A text from Chen. "Ricci agreed to meet. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. He'll talk, but he wants full immunity and witness protection. This is our shot." She showed the message to Dominic, watching his expression shift from vulnerable to strategic. The transformation was fascinating and heartbreaking, a reminder that the man who'd kissed her was also capable of calculated violence. "Tomorrow, then," he said, "we get Ricci's testimony, compile the evidence, and file criminal complaints with multiple federal agencies simultaneously. And then? Then we see if justice actually exists in this city, or if it's just a comfortable myth." Sophia spent the night in the apartment, unable to sleep. Through the glass walls, she could see Dominic still working, reviewing files with focused intensity. Around 3 in the morning, she gave up on sleep and joined him. He looked up as she approached, something warm flickering in his expression. "Couldn't sleep either?" "Too much adrenaline, too many questions." She sat beside him. "Do you ever wonder if we're the good guys in this story? I stopped believing in good guys and bad guys a long time ago. Now I just try to be slightly less bad than the alternatives." "That's depressing. That's realistic." He closed the file, giving her his full attention. "Your father believed in absolute justice. That belief got him killed. My father believed in absolute power. That belief got him killed too. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between." "Have you lost your soul? Ask me when this is over. If we're both still alive, maybe I'll have an answer." They worked together as dawn broke, two people navigating the space between justice and vengeance, professional partnership, and something that felt dangerously like falling in love. When Chen arrived at noon to prepare for the Ricci meeting, he took one look at them and shook his head with a knowing smile. "You two are going to be trouble." "We already are," Sophia replied. "Then let's make it count. Let's take down the real monsters and give your father the justice he deserved." As they prepared for the meeting that could change everything, Sophia felt the weight of what they were attempting. They were 3 people, a lawyer, a detective, and a criminal, standing against an organization that had operated with impunity for decades. But for the first time since learning the truth, Sophia felt something like hope. Maybe justice was possible. Maybe the most dangerous man in the city could become something more than his reputation. And maybe falling for your enemy wasn't the worst mistake. It might be the thing that saved them both. The warehouse where Thomas Ricci agreed to meet was neutral territory, abandoned industrial space that belonged to no family. Sophia sat in the SUV with Dominic, watching Sarah's team sweep the perimeter through thermal imaging. "He's alone," Sarah reported. "No vehicles within 3 blocks. "Scared people tell the truth," Dominic said quietly. Detective Chen reviewed the immunity deal. "This better work. I burned bridges getting this approved." "It'll work," Sophia said. "Ricci wants protection. We're offering that and a chance to destroy the people who hurt his son." They approached on foot, Sarah's team maintaining defensive positions. Inside, Thomas Ricci stood near a broken window. He was in his 50s, looking older, aging from stress rather than time. "You came alone?" Ricci's voice was suspicious. "Just us," Dominic said. "Security is outside." "Protection." Ricci laughed bitterly. "Vincent Castellano put my boy in a wheelchair, 16 years old, baseball scholarship to UCLA. Now he can't walk because Vincent thought I was talking to feds. I wasn't." Sophia stepped forward. "That's why we're here, Mr. Ricci. We want Vincent and Marco to answer for what they've done. but we need your help. You're that lawyer, going after the Russos. Ricci looked confused. What is this? Justice, Sophia said. The Castellanos killed my father 12 years ago. They crippled your son. How many more families before someone stops them? Ricci's hands trembled. I testify. They'll kill me. Not if they're in federal custody, Chen said, showing the immunity agreement. Full protection for you, your wife, your son. New identities, relocation, financial support. And I give up everyone I've known for 15 years? They're not your family, Dominic said. Family doesn't cripple children. Ricci stared at him. Your father started a war that left dozens dead. My father fought the Castellanos because they were parasites. Yes, people died, but my father never targeted innocents. That's the difference. Is it? Or just degrees of evil? Sophia spoke. Maybe it is degrees. But right now, you have a choice. Stay silent or speak up. What would your son want? Ricci's face crumpled. Michael asked me last week why I ever got involved with these people. I didn't have an answer. You can get out now, Chen said gently. That's redemption, a second chance. After a long moment, Ricci pulled out a pen. Where do I sign? The next 2 hours were intensive. Ricci talked, Chen recorded, Sophia took notes. The testimony was devastating. Murders, money laundering, bribery, extortion. The construction fraud your father investigated? Ricci said to Sophia. That was Marco's masterpiece. Your father traced it almost to the end. That's why they killed him. Sophia's hands clenched. Who gave the order? Marco. Vincent handled execution. Ricci's expression was haunted. Vincent bragged about how clean it was, said he handled the journalist problem. Did he say that explicitly? He said he handled the journalist problem and nobody would ask questions about city contracts anymore. Then he laughed. Ricci met her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a daughter. Sophia forced her voice steady. Your testimony will put them away. When they finished, sunset colored the water. Sarah's team escorted Ricci to a federal facility. Chen left to file criminal complaints. Alone in the SUV, Sophia felt the weight. They had testimony. They had evidence. They had a real chance. You held it together, Dominic said. Hearing details about your father's murder couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. But I needed to know exactly what they did. He took her hand. They will pay, I promise. The SUV pulled up to Dominic's building. As they entered the elevator, exhaustion crashed over Sophia. But when they reached the top floor, Sarah was waiting with a grim expression. We have a problem, she said, pulling up security footage. 20 minutes ago. The footage showed Sophia's old apartment building. 3 men in dark clothes entering. 15 minutes later, leaving with boxes. The Castellanos just raided your apartment, Sarah said, looking for leverage. Sophia felt cold. My mother's things, my father's research notes. We'll get it back, Dominic said, voice hard with anger. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, expression darkening. It's Marco Castellano. Don't answer, Sophia said. No, they're panicking, making mistakes. He put it on speaker. Marco. Dominic. Marco's voice was smooth, cultured. I hear you've been making interesting alliances. I don't have mutual interests with you. No? Then why is your name on half the crimes this city whispers about? The arrangement where you commit crimes and let my reputation take blame? That ends now. A pause. Careful. Ms. Bennett has already lost one parent to unfortunate circumstances. It would be tragic if history repeated itself. Before Dominic could respond, Sophia spoke. This is Sophia Bennett. I have your full confession about my father's murder on record. Thomas Ricci is cooperating with federal authorities. It's over, Marco. Profound silence. When Marco spoke again, his tone had frozen. Ms. Bennett, how brave. I've been curious about the woman foolish enough to go after my organization, the journalist's daughter. How poetic. By tomorrow, federal warrants will be issued. You'll be arrested, charged, and convicted. You think you've won because you have testimony from a criminal who'd say anything? His word won't hold up. His word plus financial records, surveillance footage, and a dozen other witnesses. Your empire is built on fear. Once one person finds courage, others follow. Brave words from someone who's lost so much. Tell me, does Dominic know what he's risking? My brother Vincent can be very creative when motivated. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You came after my family. Now I'm coming after yours. Since your family is dead, I'll settle for making Dominic watch you die the same way you'll watch him bleed out. Poetic justice. The line went dead. Sophia stood frozen, Marco's threat settling like ice. He's bluffing, Dominic said, voice tight. Is he? Marco talks well, but Vincent handles violence, and Vincent is sloppy, emotional. We can predict him. Sarah had been working her phone. Full lockdown protocols. No one gets in or out without my authorization. That makes us sitting ducks, Dominic said. We don't have time to hide, Sophia argued. Chen is filing complaints tomorrow. We need to be available. Then we go on offense, Dominic said. Force his hand. Make him come to us on our terms. That's insane, Sarah said. The target is already there. At least this way we control circumstances. Sophia understood his logic. What are you proposing? Tomorrow, you're scheduled to file the complaint. Federal courthouse. Very public. We make a show of it. Marco and Vincent will see you're not hiding. It'll force them to move when and where we're prepared. You want to use me as bait. I want to finish this before they regroup. They're panicking. That's when they're vulnerable. Sarah seemed torn. It's high risk, but he's not wrong. If we wait, they'll fortify. Better to strike while we have momentum. Sophia paced to the windows, looking over city lights. Somewhere out there, the Castellanos were planning how to silence her permanently. Her father had died pursuing truth. Now she had the chance to finish what he started. The risk was enormous. She could die tomorrow, but hiding felt like betraying everything her father stood for. Okay, she said. We do it your way. Public filing, full security, force their hand, but I want every contingency planned. Dominic's expression shifted, pride mixed with concern. Are you sure? No, but I'm sure I can't hide. My father didn't hide. I won't either. He crossed to her, taking both hands. Then tomorrow, we end this. One way or another. They spent the night planning. Sarah mapped security routes. Dominic reviewed the Castellano organization. Chen worked federal contacts. And Sophia prepared her statement. Words she would speak when filing the complaint. Around 4 a.m., exhausted and wired on coffee, Sophia found herself alone with Dominic in the apartment. You should sleep, he said. So should you. I keep thinking about what Marco said, about watching you die. He was trying to scare us. He succeeded. For the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. I've faced death 100 times, but the thought of something happening to you because of me. You didn't bring me in. I walked in myself. Is it? Or did I manipulate the situation? Sophia placed hands on his chest. Give me more credit. I'm a lawyer who discovered her father was murdered and decided to do something about it. The choice was always mine. What if I can't protect you tomorrow? Then something goes wrong. But I'd rather die fighting for truth than live safely with lies. That's who I am, who my father raised me to be. He pulled her closer, forehead resting against hers. I've never been afraid like this. I've never had something to lose that mattered more than survival. Welcome to caring about someone. It's terrifying. His hands cupped her face. Promise me something. If things go wrong, if there's a choice between your safety and the case, don't ask me to promise that. Promise me you'll run. I can't. Sophia. No, I won't promise to abandon you. We're in this together, partners. We both get out, or neither of us does. He stared at her, emotions warring. Then he kissed her, Not with desperate passion, but with something deeper. Tenderness and fear and fierce protectiveness. "You're going to be the death of me, counselor," he whispered. "Only if we're unlucky. And I don't believe in luck. I believe in preparation and stubborn refusal to give up." "Then let's hope your stubbornness keeps us both alive tomorrow." They held each other as dawn broke, two people who'd found something unexpected in chaos. Whatever happened in the next 24 hours would determine not just the case's fate, but whether they'd have any future together. Sophia refused to believe this was their story's end. They hadn't come this far to fail now. Tomorrow they would face the Castellanos. Tomorrow justice would finally have its day. And tomorrow, one way or another, this would end. The federal courthouse steps were crowded with media by 9 a.m. The story was too big. A young attorney accusing a crime family of murdering her journalist father. Sophia sat in the SUV, watching through tinted windows. Reporters jostled for position. Federal marshals maintained a perimeter, but she could see gaps. "Sarah's team is in position," Dominic said. "Rooftop overwatch, street level, rapid response team 3 blocks out." Detective Chen reviewed the criminal complaint. "Federal prosecutors are ready. The moment you file, they'll execute arrest warrants at 6 locations. We'll have them in custody before they can react." "You hope," Sophia said. "I know. I've been coordinating with the FBI for 18 hours. Sophia smoothed her white blouse, the same one from the first hearing. A deliberate callback. "It's time," Sarah said through comms. "Ms. Bennett, you'll exit and proceed directly up the steps. Don't stop for questions. My team will surround you loose formation. We want confident, not paranoid." Sophia took a deep breath. "Let's do this." Dominic caught her hand. "You've got this. Go show them what justice looks like. See you on the other side." Always. The moment she stepped out, noise hit like a physical force. Reporters shouting, cameras clicking, overwhelming roar. Sarah's team formed a protective diamond. Sophia walked up the steps with her head high, complaint folder clutched to her chest. Professional. Confident. Exactly what her father would have done. She was halfway up when she saw him. Vincent Castellano stood at the crowd's edge. Not hiding. Just watching her with predatory intensity. Their eyes met. He smiled, cold, promising violence, and made a gesture like drawing his finger across his throat. Sarah saw it. "Vincent Castellano, northeast corner. Do not engage. Continue to courthouse entrance." But Sophia had stopped. Because standing next to Vincent was Marco Castellano. The brothers were here. Together. In broad daylight. They weren't afraid. They were making a statement. "Ms. Bennett, move," Sarah said urgently. "Now." Sophia forced her legs to work, but her mind raced. Why were they here? They had to know arrest warrants were imminent, unless they had a plan. She reached the entrance, passing through security. Federal prosecutors met her in the lobby. "Ms. Bennett, I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh. We're ready to file." "The Castellano brothers are outside," Sophia said quickly. "Both of them." Walsh's expression didn't change. "We know. FBI has them under surveillance. The moment the warrants are executed, they'll be arrested. But we need you to file first." Sophia followed Walsh through corridors to a filing office. It was anticlimactic, just paperwork and signatures, bureaucracy of justice. But as she signed her name, formally accusing Marco and Vincent of murder, racketeering, conspiracy, Sophia felt 12 years lifting from her shoulders. "It's done," Walsh said. "FBI is executing warrants now. You should leave through the rear entrance." "I want to see it," Sophia said. "I want to watch them get arrested." Walsh looked like she wanted to argue, but nodded. "We'll arrange for you to observe from a secure location." They moved to a secure observation room. Through bulletproof glass, Sophia could see the media crowd. FBI agents were moving through it, converging on where the brothers had been. "Something's wrong," Sarah said. "My team says the Castellanos just split up. Vincent went into the parking garage, Marco toward the building rear." "They're running?" Chen asked. No. Sarah's face had gone pale. Their positioning. This was about drawing our security out so they could… The explosion ripped through the parking garage with enough force to shatter windows 3 blocks away. Sophia felt the floor shake, saw the fireball rising. For a horrible moment, she thought Vincent had blown himself up. But then she understood. The parking garage was where Dominic's SUV was parked. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She was running before anyone could stop her, ignoring Sarah's shouts. She had to get to him. The rear entrance was chaos. Security running toward the explosion, civilians running away. Sophia fought against the current. She burst outside into smoke and debris. The parking garage was partially collapsed, fire spreading. Emergency vehicles were arriving. Dominic! She screamed his name, trying to get closer, but hands grabbed her. Ms. Bennett, stop! It was Chen holding her back. You can't go in there. He's in there. Dominic was… The SUV wasn't in the main structure. Sarah moved it 20 minutes ago as precaution. He's not in there. Sophia's legs nearly gave out with relief. Where is he? Secondary location, 2 blocks north. He's fine. Chen held up his phone, showing missed calls from Dominic. See? He's alive. She grabbed the phone, calling him back. He answered on the first ring. Sophia, thank God. Are you hurt? I'm fine. I thought you were… I'm okay. Sarah suspected something and moved our position. But Sophia, the explosion was a distraction. Marco and Vincent used it to escape. They're in the wind. Reality crashed over her. The Castellanos had planned this perfectly. Create chaos, scatter security, disappear in confusion. They knew, she said numbly. They knew we were filing today. We have to assume they have inside information. But Sophia, listen. You're not safe out in the open. Get back inside right now. What about you? I'm secure. But you're the target they really want. As if summoning them, gunfire erupted from the street. Get down! Chen tackled Sophia behind a concrete barrier as bullets sparked off courthouse walls. Federal marshals returned fire, civilians screaming. Through the chaos, Sophia caught a glimpse of Vincent in a black sedan, leaning out the window with a weapon. He wasn't trying to hit her. He was creating panic. This way! Sarah appeared, grabbing Sophia's arm and hauling her toward a service entrance. We need to get you off the street now. They ran in a crouch, using vehicles for cover as gunfire continued. Sophia's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. Sarah got her into the service entrance just as the black sedan peeled away. Inside, federal marshals were establishing secure perimeter. Ms. Bennett. Adia Walsh appeared, earlier composure cracked. We need to move you to a federal safe house immediately. Where's Dominic? Mr. Russo's security team is bringing him here, but we can't guarantee your safety if you stay together. Splitting up is logical. No. Sophia's voice was flat, final. Together, with combined security, we're stronger. I'm not leaving him. Walsh looked like she wanted to argue, but was interrupted by Sarah. Mr. Russo is entering the building now, and Ms. Bennett is right. Splitting them makes both easier targets. The Castellanos will go after both. Better to consolidate security. Dominic arrived minutes later, surrounded by his team. The moment he saw Sophia, he crossed the distance and pulled her into his arms. Change of plans, he said into her hair. We're not waiting for FBI manhunts. The Castellanos want war? We give them one. On our terms. What are you talking about? Walsh demanded. I'm talking about forcing them out of hiding. They're running scared, which means they'll make mistakes. He pulled back to look at Sophia. But I need to know you're with me, what I'm proposing. It's dangerous. You could walk away right now. Sophia thought about her father, about 12 years of believing his death was accident. Thought about all the people the Castellanos had hurt. What's the plan? Dominic's smile was sharp, dangerous. We make them come to us, and when they do, we end this. Permanently. Instead of hiding, Sophia would return to Dominic's building and hold a press conference. She would dare the Castellanos to come after her, And when they did, they'd walk into a trap. "This is the worst idea I've ever heard," Chen said as they prepared defenses. "You're using yourself as bait." "I'm already bait," Sophia countered. "At least this way, we control circumstances." The building had been transformed into a fortress. Sarah's team reinforced entry points, installed surveillance, coordinated with FBI tactical units. The top floor was a kill box. "The Castellanos are desperate," Dominic explained. "They've lost protection, lost anonymity. Their animals backed into a corner, which makes them dangerous but predictable. They'll come after Sophia because she's the symbol of their downfall." "And if they don't?" Walsh asked. "They will. Because I'm going to make it personal." He pulled out his phone, dialing. When answered, he put it on speaker. "Marco, I assume you're watching the news." Marco's voice was tight with rage. "You think you've won? Federal warrants matter? My family has survived worse. Your family is finished. And Marco? It'll fall because you targeted someone I care about." A pause. The great Dominic Russo, brought low by feelings. "My father always said your family's weakness was sentimentality. If I'm sentimental, prove it. Sophia Bennett is holding a press conference at my building in 2 hours. Top floor, streaming live. She'll talk about your crimes. She'll destroy what's left of your reputation." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to come. I want you to try. And I want you to fail so completely that everyone knows the Castellano family is nothing but a memory." Dominic hung up. "He'll come. Both will. This is their last chance to maintain credibility. If they let us humiliate them without response, they're finished." The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m. By 3:30, media had assembled outside. Sophia stood in front of the mirror, straightening her blouse. Her hands were steady, but she felt disconnected. "You don't have to do this," Dominic said from the doorway. "Yes, I do. This is what my father would have done. Your father died doing that. And I might die today, but I'll die standing for something that matters." He crossed to her. "If this goes wrong, if they get past security, I need you to run. The apartment has a panic room behind that bookshelf. Biometric lock keyed to your fingerprint. You'll be safe until FBI clears the building. I'm not hiding while you fight." "Yes, you are. Because if you die today, everything we've done is meaningless. The case needs your testimony." His hands framed her face. "I need you alive." She saw genuine terror. "Okay, I promise. If things go catastrophically wrong, I'll use the panic room." "Thank you." He kissed her forehead. "Now let's show the world what happens when the Castellanos pick the wrong enemies." The press conference started on time. Sophia stood at a podium near the windows, Dominic beside her, cameras recording. "My name is Sophia Bennett," she began. 12 years ago, my father was murdered by the Castellano crime family because he was investigating their corruption. For 12 years, I believed his death was an accident. 3 days ago, I learned the truth." She detailed the evidence, the testimony, the pattern of crimes. She named Marco and Vincent specifically. "The Castellano brothers have tried to intimidate me, threaten me, even kill me today. They've failed, because truth is more powerful than fear, and justice will always outlast corruption." She was wrapping up when Sarah's voice came through comms. "Multiple targets approaching building, 4 vehicles heavily armed. This is it." Sophia's heart rate spiked, but she kept her voice level. "The Castellano family ends today, not with violence but with accountability." The elevator dinged. Everyone froze. The doors opened, and Marco Castellano stepped out. Alone, wearing an expensive suit and an expression of absolute rage. "Enough," he said. "Enough of this performance." Federal agents moved to intercept, but he raised his hands. "I'm unarmed. I came to talk. Or are you afraid of words, Ms. Bennett?" Sophia stepped away from the podium. "I'm not afraid of anything you have to say." "Then listen carefully." Marco walked closer. "You think you've won? You think federal warrants matter? My family has connections you can't imagine. This case will disappear just like your father's investigation. Your father had those connections. You're just a pretender. Marco's facade cracked. My father built an empire. Yes, we lost it for a time, but we rebuilt. You're a temporary setback. Then why are you here? Because you need to understand. You can destroy my organization, send me to prison, but you can't destroy what I represent. Fear doesn't die because one family falls. You're not creating justice, just creating opportunity for the next monster. Maybe. But today I'm creating accountability for you, for your crimes, for my father's murder. Your father was a nuisance who stuck his nose where it didn't belong. He died because he was foolish. The only foolish thing I did was waste time talking to you. Sophia gestured to federal agents. He just confessed to my father's murder on camera. Arrest him. Marco's expression shifted to triumph. Did I confess? Or did I speak hypothetically? You'll find I never admitted to anything specific. A good lawyer will get that entire statement thrown out. We'll see in court. He turned to leave. But as he reached the elevator, Vincent Castellano emerged from the stairwell with 3 armed men. Enough talking, Vincent said. We're not leaving witnesses. Everything happened at once. Vincent's men raised weapons. Federal agents responded. Sarah's team moved to protect Sophia and Dominic, and Marco pulled a pistol from inside his jacket. Get down! Dominic tackled Sophia as gunfire erupted. The office transformed into a war zone. Bullets shattered windows. People scrambled for cover. Panic room! Dominic was dragging her toward the apartment. Now! Not without you. I'll be right behind you. Go! She ran, hearing gunfire, but she'd promised. The bookshelf opened to reveal a reinforced door. She yanked it open and stumbled inside. The panic room was small but equipped. Through a monitor, she could see security camera feeds. Federal agents had Vincent's men pinned. Sarah's team had defensive positions around Dominic, but Marco had gotten to the elevator. No, she couldn't let him escape. Sophia grabbed the radio. Marco Castellano is in the elevator descending. Someone stop him. Chen's voice came back. FBI has the lobby sealed. Through camera feeds, she watched as the elevator opened on ground floor. Marco stepped out, confident despite being surrounded. I want my lawyer, he said calmly. I'm invoking my rights. But the FBI had him. He was in custody. Back on the top floor, gunfire had stopped. Sarah's voice came through. All hostiles secured. Mr. Russo is uninjured. Ms. Bennett, you can come out. Sophia emerged to find the office looking like a disaster zone. Windows shattered, bullet holes in walls, but no one on their side was seriously injured. Dominic was walking toward her, blood on his shirt but moving steadily. You're okay? I'm okay. Are you hurt? Graze on the arm. Nothing serious. He pulled her against him. When Vincent came through that door, I thought, I know, me too. Vincent was on the ground, hands zip-tied, surrounded by federal agents. He looked up at Sophia with pure hatred. This isn't over, he spat. Yes, she said quietly. It is. Ada Walsh appeared, disheveled but grimly satisfied. Both Castellano brothers in custody, multiple counts including attempted murder of federal agents. Their organization is finished. And the case? My father's murder? With Ricci's testimony and the evidence, we'll get convictions. I promise you, Ms. Bennett, your father will have justice. Sophia felt tears welling for the first time. 12 years of grief, of not knowing, of living with a lie. And now, finally, the truth would be told. Dominic wrapped his arm around her shoulders. It's over. You did it. We did it. What happens now? Good question. The case would go to trial. The Castellanos would be in federal custody, and they would have to figure out what their relationship meant when they weren't fighting a common enemy. Now? She said. Now we rest, we heal, and tomorrow we start figuring out what comes next. I like the sound of that. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the federal courthouse again. This time, she was a witness, testifying against Marco and Vincent in their murder trial. The testimony took 3 days, She described her father's investigation, the evidence uncovered. Thomas Ricci testified for 2 days. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Guilty, on all counts. Marco and Vincent were sentenced to life in federal prison without parole. The Castellano organization was officially dismantled. Outside the courthouse, Sophia gave a brief statement. My father, Marcus Bennett, dedicated his life to exposing truth and pursuing justice. Today, 12 years after his murder, justice was finally served. Let this be a reminder that no one is above the law. Truth may take time, but it always prevails. As she descended the steps, she saw Dominic waiting by a regular car. No bodyguards, just a man waiting for someone he cared about. How are you feeling? He asked. Exhausted, relieved, grateful, ready to move forward. About that. He seemed nervous. I've been thinking about what comes next. I'm stepping back from the organization, transitioning to legitimate operations only. Security consulting, real estate, legal businesses, no more gray areas. Sophia's heart swelled. You don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. Because you showed me there's another way to live. That maybe I can be someone worthy of you. You're already worthy. Then maybe I can be someone I'm worthy of. He took her hands. I can't promise I'll be perfect. But I can promise I'll try. Every day. That's all anyone can do. He pulled her closer, kissing her with gentleness that still made her breath catch. So what now? Dominic asked when they broke apart. Now? I'm thinking about starting my own practice. Civil rights law, representing people who can't afford big firms, making sure justice isn't just for those who can pay. That sounds perfect. And maybe, if you're interested, you could help. Use those security skills to protect attorneys doing dangerous work. Use your connections to fund legal aid. His smile was soft, genuine. I'd like that. Partners? Partners, she confirmed, in work and in life. They drove away together, leaving behind the media circus. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges, moments where they'd navigate between who Dominic had been and who he was becoming. But for the first time since her father's death, Sophia felt hope. Real hope for a future where justice was possible, where love could exist in complicated circumstances, where two people from different worlds could find common ground. As the city passed by, Sophia reached over and took Dominic's hand. He squeezed back, and in that simple gesture was everything they'd been through and everything they were still to become. The verdict was in. Justice had been served. And now, finally, they could start writing the next chapter.